Hey everyone, and welcome back to Actors in Conversation. I'm your host, Monica Bowman. Today I have the wonderful, amazing pleasure of sitting down with an incredible human being, Pawnee Killer from AMC's Hell on Wheels, an award-winning writer, director, actor, and the owner of Black Eagle Entertainment, Gerald Auger. How are you doing today?
I am living the dream.
Living the dream? I love that. We have always a lot to talk about. You have such a incredible career. But I think let's just start with what pushed you into making films? Because you've done both sides of the table, acting and directing. What pushed you into making films?
Well, actually, it was in 1995 when they had, I was in my last year of my marketing management that I was receiving at the Grand Prairie Regional. And they had the first time ever 1995 Winter Games that were filmed live.
Cool.
And first time ever. And I was asked to stand on stage with the elder when he did the opening prayer. And when it happened, camera hit. And the rest was history.
That's amazing.
So,
That's kind of where you were like, yeah, let's do this.
Yeah.
So one of your first films was Walking Alone, about Indigenous gangs. Can you tell me a little bit about the origin of that film and producing it?
Walking Alone was one of my first films as a writer, director, and it was based on, at that time when I did Walking Alone, we had the whole Native gang issue happening in our communities. And I just happened to walk by the National Film Board of Canada one day, and I said, you know what, I should see if they would be interested in doing this Native gang piece because it's all over the news. Yeah. Walked in, talked to National Film Board, and they said, we love it. We'd love to do it. So, and then started researching and ended up running into Sean Bernard, who I feature in Walking Alone, and it all took a life of its own. And that's when I realized that when it comes to documentary, that when a camera starts rolling, you have no control over it after that. So
Totally.
So that's kind of where Walking Alone came from, and and it was really because I have a son, and I didn't want my son to get involved in such a lifestyle, and I figured, you know what, if my son he needs to know what this whole issue is. That if you're going to pick up those colors. As a man, be prepared to go to prison or die. And for a woman, be prepared to become an addict and to work the streets. And that was just, I wanted to show the reality of what it is when you pick up those colors. And the work that I was doing already. In my communities, I would talk to the men in the institutions when I was an Oskapi, a helper with the elders, and I realized after that I would ask the men, if you wanted to pick colors, if you pick the sacred colors of our ancestors that we use in ceremony, those colors will give you nothing but life. You pick up those other colors, will lead either to prison or death. Yeah. The choice is yours. So. Yeah.
That's incredible. You succeeded. It won Best Film and Best Director for that, so congratulations. That's incredible. So I'll move right on then to some of the acting credits you've had. One of the most noticeable was Pawnee Killer on AMC's Hell on Wheels. Can you tell me a little bit about auditioning for the role and why you took it?
Well, Pawnee Killer actually changed my life, and I'm grateful for the human being that was Pawnee Killer when he walked this earth. That was in 2011 when the call came in from my agent to say, they want you to read for this character on AMC's Hell on Wheels. And I was 2 years into my sabbatical because I had walked away from Hollywood, as I called it. And I just got tired of playing the John Wayne's version of William as a Indian, as they would call it. And I just got tired of that, and I just walked away and said, I don't want to be perpetuating a stereotype. So I walked away 2 years into it. It was 2011 when then I got the call for Pawnee Killer, and I figured, you know what? Because I was there to really heal from my childhood trauma when I left Hollywood, because I never really dealt with it when I left home. When I did, and going through emotional, mental, sexual abuse as a child, I never really dealt with that, right? And I figured, you know what? The time when my life was starting to take off and things were happening and it started to move pretty fast and very furious, I got tired of waking up hungover, broken friendships, broken relationships, dope sick, all of that. And I figured, you know what, I don't want to live my life like this. And I figured, but that was a part of it. The other part of it was when the ancestors, the elders had told me, there'll come a day where we will call you back to go back on this road of everything we've been teaching you, because you are to be our bridge in the future, because you speak the white man's language, you walk the white man's world, and you write the white man's word. And everything we are going to teach you is going to be needed in the future, because there's going to come a time the Western world will realize their values, their beliefs, their philosophies do not work, and they'll recognize that time when there's mass chaos, confusion, mayhem, and destruction happening throughout the land. And they will go sit at the sacred fire of the red man to relearn life, is where that came from, right?
Okay.
So when I was offered Pawnee Killer, I like I do everything else as an actor. I studied who is this character, who was Pawnee Killer, and everything. And the beautiful thing about that, why I took it really was because everything that Pawnee Killer stood for, I was living it in my life. The way he was all about resisting the change that was being brought on to my people as four directional people, and then he fought to be able to maintain our language, our values, our beliefs of our spirituality in life, and that's what I did, and that's what I do, right? So I figured, wow. So when the audition came, and I ended up booking it, and I did ask David Von Aken then, and Jeremy Gold and Tony and Joe Gate, and he says, why me? Why, of all the actors, did you pick me? And they said, well, Gerald, because when people came in the audition, everybody was projecting, was screaming their lines. He said, you came in, and you were very, very calm, very collected. But we could see there was something behind your eyes, and that you didn't scream. We could see the intensity. And that's that. And everybody that was involved with it all had a spiritual component to their life, they said, including Anson, Common, and all that. And they said we chose them because they had a spiritual element that we could sense. And it says, wow. So that's kind of that was where Pawnee Killer happened.
It's crazy.
And the beautiful thing about that, well, I did season 1, and I thought I was ready to come back into the lifestyle, the Hollywood lifestyle, and traveling to the award shows, even doing music shows. And I realized that my own community was going through trial and tribulation with the young people. So I chose to walk away again and go back to my community to be there for the young people. So.
On that note, you are an advisor with the Calgary Impact Society. You're the director of Indigenous Leadership and Development. What does that entail?
When I was working with Impact, we would go into the communities. Indigenous have a problem using that term, but Indigenous community, as the world would know it, is where we would go in and help rebuild the young people, help rebuild the families because of residential school, because of colonization, and bringing that balance, that hope back to the people, back to the young people, so they can learn to walk in balance emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually in this world, and to return to the language, the ceremonies, the spiritual beliefs, the values that our ancestors had. And because unfortunately, because I'm a product of residential school, hence why I went through the emotional, the mental, the sexual abuse as a child. I'm a product of it, and I realized, there has to be more to life than this. And so when I started my own healing, I had to go back and find my emotional, my mental, my physical, my spiritual balance, heal my demons from the trauma. That's when I realized, this is what I want for my son. And at that point, I already have my grandson. My grandson,
Congratulations.
Mav, was there, and I figured, everything that I need to do is for them. It's for my son, my grandson, and now my granddaughter, baby Brooklyn. So, so that's a part of it, because it's a part of realizing the 6 years in the wilderness, realizing that, I was told by the elders, when my son was born, they said, it's not about you no more. It's about your son. So that's when my life started taking a shift as well. And So now everything that I do is for my son and my grandchildren. And at the end of the day, I want to be able to earn a good death when I'm done my physical walk in this world. So
Yeah.
yeah, so that's who Pawnee Killer for me was. It's wow,
Yeah.
I understand who this man was, and that because I am fighting the same battles and the struggles of the people in the 21st century, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
And does any of that tie in with the project you're working on right now, Bohemian Blood, still in production? You're acting in it and writing as well?
Bohemian Blood was when I left my sabbatical in 2015. HBO called to do Lewis and Clark. And then St. Petersburg, Russia called to do Anikov's Bridge, which was with Sergei Bordov was the executive producer on it, I believe. And then I did that, and then I shot Lost Face at the same time in the span from September to December of that year. I shot Lost Face based on a Jack London novel, and Lost Face made it to the top 10 of the Oscars in 2019. Shot Bohemian Blood. We got international distribution out of Malibu when we did that, and then my life went from this. Well, it went from this back to this. When I walked away, when I was told by my elders and the ancestors, my sabbatical was done, the 6 years, and things started moving.
Because right after that 6 years, things came fast.
Fast. So
I think then let's talk a little bit about our character Makamuk in Lost Face, which you won an award for that as well.
I won Best Actor in LA for that one, yes. Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about the storyline first of that project?
Well, Makamuk Lost Face is based on a Jack London novel, and these fur traders come out to the land, and they are abusing, raping, and pillaging the women, and then my character comes and knows what they're all about. So we take the Russian character for the series, and then he tricks me into because he doesn't want to get tortured, he doesn't want to get killed by the warriors because of what they've done, because they're onto him. So he devises this little plan where he tricks me into cutting his head off, and so he didn't have to die a painful death. It was instant,
nice and quick. And
so that's hence the term Lost Face. I lost face with my people.
Interesting.
Yeah, but at the same time too, when I was doing Lost Face as well, being fresh from my sabbatical, I realized, that was a part of it where things didn't really change for me as an actor and as an indigenous actor. Is that it was why language was so important, because I speak my language, I speak it fluently, and that's one thing I've never lost, because I know the power of our language as Woodland Cree, and that it has spirit, right? And that so when I was offered, when Sean Mihan reached out to me personally on my email, reached out to me and said, Gerald, I've seen, you don't know me, but I have this short film project, and I've looked at your body of work, and before I offer this to anybody, I want to offer it to you, because I think you're the only one who can actually pull this off, because of the physicality of your work and who you are. As I would be honored if you would consider it. And because that he personally reached out and bypassed everybody, I figured, you know what? Because at that point, I was already operating from spirit. I was not operating from the ego. There is because I've come to learn that there is no, these coincidences that the world knows, they're actually spiritual nuances that were set since the beginning of time. And I realized, you know what, there has to be something to this. And I respected him for reaching out to me. And I said, you know what, dude, I said, I read it, I love it, I'll take it.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So.
Love it. And that's very bold of them, and that's awesome. I like that. And I think to keep going, because we're going to get short on time, I want to talk about Black Eagle Entertainment. You're the owner of that production company. Can you tell me first kind of the motto of your production company and what you guys do?
For Black Eagle, for me, it's debunking the stereotypes that John Wayne, that I know as Hollywood, has portrayed us, has stereotyped us as Indian people. And that, well, first off, I'm not from India, and that's a term that Hollywood created for us, right?
Yeah.
So, and I got tired of playing feathers and leather. If I was not wearing a feather and leather, I was either a drunk or an addict or an inmate.
Yeah.
And at that point, I had told myself, and I said, you know what, I don't want to be perpetuating that stereotype, because there's a generation of young people that don't understand who we are as Indigenous because of residential school, because of colonization. And there's people throughout Mother Earth that have never met an actual Indigenous. So what they see on screen is who they think we are, right?
Yeah.
So in my misspent youth, I was called a dirty welfare Indian one time when I was on the street. And I said to myself, that's not who I am. And so when I look in hindsight, when I look back to everything that happened in my life, it all had to happen that way.
To get to the point where
Because
you
it
are.
made me realize that's not who I am. That's been that's my lifelong mission, is to be able to make my fellow human being understand how powerful, how sacred our languages are, our ceremonies, our values, our beliefs. And that because in my teachings, the elders had said to me, well, when the European came, they said they were going to civilize the savage. And the elders would say, well, if we were living in such a civilized society, why do we have kids killing kids, kids having kids? Why do we have this chaos in this world? And that if we're living in such a civilized society. And so that's a part of it, right? So
That's an amazing point.
So now when I do, even with Black Eagle, and I do a lot of the work with the energy industry and some government and the communities. And the young people, when I was on my sabbatical, I worked at the local band school. I was teaching the young people, along with the elders I was working with, that the earth sciences, the math, the social studies, the language arts that they were being taught,
Yeah.
we already had that prior to European contact.
Yeah.
We had through land-based teachings. And there's a reason why we have a Little Dipper and a Big Dipper in the night sky. We have connected those constellations. And the earth sciences that they talk about. And we were already astrologists, physicists, geologists, doctors, lawyers. We had our own form of law, traditional law in our communities. So I was teaching these young people everything that they're teaching you, we've already had it. And
Just
when
a
the young,
different medium.
there's a different, and when they realized, wow, so we were, because the geologists that they have are our elders. The doctors that they have are our medicine people.
Yeah.
The lawyers that we have are the law keepers in the communities, and that, and the chief and councils that we have are the leaders and the headmen we had prior to. So the social studies that they're being taught it's our way of life. And so it's all of that. And it's the numbers. Numerology has a role in life. We've always had that. And so there's why we, as a four-directional human being, and we understand what those four cardinal directions really mean.
Yeah.
And the four stages in life, and the four elements of life, the four medicines. It all has a significance. It's all connected. And it was here since the beginning of time. It was it wasn't something that my European brothers and sisters brought. We already had it.
Yeah.
And we continue to have it.
100%.
And now they're just finally realizing that everything that our elders have been talking about what's going on in the world and everything else, is that the elders are saying, wow, they're finally getting it.
Finally
Scientists
catching
are
on.
finally catching up to what we've always known.
Yeah.
No.
Amazing. I think that brings me to the work you're doing with the hashtag No More John Wayne Indian. Can you tell me a little bit about that? We've touched on it a little bit.
Yeah, for me, the No More John Wayne, I know he was an icon in Hollywood, and that he did what he did at the same time, but because, if it wasn't for the Jay Silverheels of the world who played what he did in Hollywood at the same time, right? But for me, it's what the 6 years I had to sit out on the land and reconnect with the elders, the ancestors, through ceremonies and through the land-based teachings made me realize as a father and now a grandfather that there's power in that. And that, but if Hollywood and John Wayne is telling the world that we're savages, that we're always the bad guy, how's my son, my grandchildren going to look at themselves as four directional people? And I want them to see the true power of our language and our spiritual values and our beliefs, which is why my latest TV series goes against the grain of everything that Hollywood has considered to be storytelling through John Wayne's eyes. For me, I'm telling stories through a spiritual lens, because the spiritual lens comes through the ancestors and the elders that I work with. And again, because of residential schools and colonization, today's elders unfortunately talk about residential school, talk about abuse. The elders of yesterday talked about ceremonies, talked about spirituality, talked about language, land-based teachings. That's how the world we live in now, right? So for me to know more John Wayne is I don't want to be a part of a system or a medium that perpetrates those stereotypes. Why would I tell the world that I am a drunk, that I live on welfare, that I don't pay taxes, that I don't do any of that? Because that's the stereotype. And so that's why even today, actually, I was supposed to, my agent wanted me to read for a native TV series that's going on right now, but I says no, because that series that you're asking me to read for is a part of that stereotype. And they said, I won't do that.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. I think that brings me to my next question about this new TV show that you're working on. Can you tell me anything about it? I know it's still kind of in production and under wraps, but
all I can say, I'm working with Omni Film Entertainment here in Vancouver, and Omni Film has been amazing to me in a sense of understanding and respecting the authentic protocols and the traditional and spiritual laws that we have as four directional people and as storytellers. And really what I've created, I'm just a conduit for it, because in my 6-year sabbatical, one of the prophecies that I was told was that there would come a time where the matriarch would rise, and that there would come a time there would be a spiritual awakening that would happen throughout the world. And today we know that as the coronavirus, and it's the rise of the matriarch. Yesterday they had the first female vice president in our sistering country, and that's a part of. We're in a time of manifest destiny. We're in a time of prophecy.
Yeah.
And so what I've created is what I've been told to create is to be able to bring that knowledge, that understanding to the four races of the human family. My black brothers and sisters, my yellow brothers and sisters, my white brothers and sisters, and we as the red people. And that how it's what Crazy Horse had said, one of our foremost leaders had said, I see a time of 7 generations when the 4 races of mankind would gather under a sacred tree of life and come together in unity and healing. We're in that time, and part of what our other leader, Louis Riel, had said, my people will sleep for 100 years, and when they awake, it will be the artists who will give them back their spirit. And so what I've created is a mix of prophecy, a mix of ancestral knowledge, authentic ancestral knowledge. And that's why I'm here to sit in ceremony with my head writer, who's amazing, very sought after head writer as an Indigenous woman that she is. And then with Omni Film. And because in order for the story to go to the next level, the next stage, we have to honor the spirit behind what was created. And that to me is John Wayne would never have done that. And so they would just create something that was and that they don't take the time to go sit on the land with the elders and to understand really why this knowledge is sacred.
Yeah.
And so that's a part of it, right? It's just the 6 years away taught me a lot, taught me how to reconnect with spirit, taught me that spirit never sleeps, creator never sleeps. And the creator loved us enough to grant us free will. We are free to make choices, but we're not free from the consequences. Yeah. Two of creator's absolute laws I've learned is that no human being has the right to hurt another human being, and no human being has the right to play with another human being's life. And the creator knows your reaction before your action in life. The creator knows your true intentions behind your intentions. And there will come a time when your physical walk will be done in this world that you'll go on your spirit journey. Yeah. What you do in this physical world, a short time we're in this world, this physical walk, 50 years from now, 100 years from now, 500 years from now, we're going to be in a different plane, in a different existence. And that's what I've learned through everything that I've experienced in my youth and in my life, from the trial, the tribulations. It had to happen that way, because without trial and tribulation in life, we would not evolve as spiritual beings housed in this human being. And without that, life would become boring, right? So that's why in the work that I do is just to bring that understanding, because the world is falling to its knees as we speak, because the ancestors and the elders had said, because they have forgotten about the Creator. They have forgotten about how truly pitiful we are as a human being.
Yeah.
And so I look at everything through a spiritual lens this time, right? And it's amazing, because, I've come to live to understand how to live in the moment. And before leaving Hollywood, I lived a 1260 frequency. The 1260 frequency for me is why there is stress in the world, where there's cancer, where there's sickness, where there's frustration, why there is anger. Because the 1260 frequency is what the ancestors from the stars even had said, was that the 1260 frequency is there's 60 seconds to a minute, 60 minutes to an hour, 12 months of the year. That's artificial time. That's a clock in a calendar that you will never catch up to.
That we created.
And that you've created, that we've created as a human being. And being out there and reconnecting and understanding of the 1328 frequency for me is what I live by. And the 1328 is what we call real time. And there's only one species in this world who lives that, and that's the four-legged. That's the water nation, the sky nation, the four-legged nation, the animal nation, the ones that crawl. And those are the ones, and that's the animal kingdom. And they're the only ones that live that. And 1328 is there's a full moon every 28 days, 13 times of the year. In October, we had 2 full moons.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the world I live in now, where I take a moccasin in one foot and a Nike in the other, and find that balance. And that because I want to, at the end of the day, I want to be able to look back on my journey's end and say, I lived. Yep. As opposed to coming to my journey's end and living my life in my dying moments and saying to myself, I should have, I could have. Yeah. I don't want to live that. Because to me, I've learned you can live life 2 ways. You can live a human existence by getting up in the morning, going through the motions, living somebody else's truth but your own. Yeah. Or you can live a human experience and live in the moment, live your truth, live your dreams, and just be and understand that there will come a day the physical walk will be done. So why not live it well and live it right? So.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I'm honored. And I know that we're almost at time. Oh. So thank you for sharing. But it means I get to move on to a last set of questions we ask everyone. So these 7 questions are not about the work you've done. They're just kind of character questions. So we will start with number 7. I'll start from the top. What did you think was cool when you were younger, but isn't cool now?
What did I think was cool when I was younger that I don't think is cool now?
Some people have said things like hairstyles or certain shoes, things like that.
So what was the question again?
What did you think was cool when you were younger, but isn't considered cool now?
School. Too cool for school.
That's my favorite answer so far. I love that one. Okay. Okay, number 6. If you were immortal or invincible for a day, what would you do?
If I was immortal for a day, what would I do?
No risk of injury, no risk of death.
Of injury. Oh, you know what? What would I do? Go to the bottom of the ocean.
Cool. Like the Marianas Trench, like the deepest part kind of thing?
The unexplored.
I like that.
Say hi to my ancestors from the stars who live there.
I like that. That's awesome. Number 5. What fact amazes you every time you think of it?
How truly amazing the Creator is, and that you can be on the spiritual journey all your life, and it's always the little things that literally still blow your mind, that the world calls a coincidence, which is actually a spiritual nuance that was set since the beginning of time. That Creator still blows my mind.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Number 4. What's the weirdest thing you did as a child?
What is the weirdest thing? Okay, it's going to take a while. He said he only had 45 minutes. What is the weirdest thing?
We have time to think about this. We have time to think.
What is the weirdest thing I did as a child? Well, I guess because I can laugh about it now, but because when I was funny, it was sitting under a desk sniffing glue. That would be it.
Oh yeah, all right, okay. Children are weird.
Yes, we are.
Like I'm thinking about this now. Number 3. What is one thing people do that pisses you off more than anything?
The one.
Everyone else in this room is laughing.
What is one thing that I do that people piss me off about people? The ones that are just, the ones that just are not aware, that are not awake, that are still sleeping and just don't understand common sense.
Yeah.
That's really what it is, because in the world we live in, it's like this. People have lost all sense of common sense. And that, so that would be for all that, and just, that would be that.
Lost all sense of common sense. That's a good quote. I'm going to take that. Number 2. If you could know the absolute truth to one question, what question would you ask?
Okay. Well, the Creator I know is a being of light, is not male or female, is a being of light. I guess it would understand. Well, no, because you can't recognize Creator's presence. Well, you can. Okay, that would be is really fully understanding the Creator's presence, so I can do something about it to earn Creator's grace. So when I'm done my physical walk, I'll go straight into the light.
Nice. Hell yeah. And number 1. What's the biggest lie you ever told?
What's the biggest lie that I ever told?
We always say, please don't incriminate yourself on camera.
That I'm 21. That I'm still 21.
21 to this day.
21 to this day. 21 and older.
This is some of the best answers to these questions. I like it. And that is all the questions I have for you. Oh my God, I'm going to walk away and I'm never going to forget these answers. School. School. So, thank you so much. It has been an honor to talk to you. It has been just such a pleasure and so informative. So, thank you so much for sitting down with me.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure.
Yes.
And thank you all for watching this episode of Actors in Conversation. if you like the show, if you work in the industry, as always, even if you didn't like the show, you can click down at the bottom to subscribe, and there's links to Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and TikTok. We have TikTok. And thank you all so much. As always, we can't do this without you, so thank you so much for supporting the show. Count the number of times I say thank you. Mwah. Bye, guys.